For me, the plant science is really integral. The way that I look at, even when I hire growers for my clients, I don't hire any growers that don't have a formal degree in plant science, agriculture, botany, horticulture, something. The reason being that if this is paired with some legacy experience or some legal experience growing cannabis, like that's perfect. But I like to have that base because cannabis is something that is still relatively new to grow on a commercial scale, the way that we're growing it now, for example, for GMP compliance. So, decreasing plant touching because we want to decrease the microbial load. There's other things that go in. So the way that we might be growing the best legacy cannabis in the world may not transition that well into a GMP environment from a labor perspective, from plant touching perspective, maybe some of the methodologies, maybe some of even the products used to grow that plant. So having the ability to be able to vet different solutions and to kind of predict or at least hypothesize what effect it's going to have on the plant can be really helpful. And that comes a lot of the time from a very core understanding of plant biology and experience with other crops. So usually if I have to honestly pick between two growers, and this is a very common CV comparison I'll have to do, I've got somebody that's maybe got like 5 years of legacy experience, but no formal training and no formal like work in any kind of agriculture environment. Or I've got somebody who's got maybe a degree in plants and they've got maybe a year or two in a greenhouse. I will typically pick that person because the cannabis knowledge is something to me that can be very easily trained, but the experience with running an environmental control system in a large scale grow, the background in plant biology and plant science, those are things that are harder for me to drill into somebody than like the protocol, because a lot of the consulting work that we do, we tell them, here is what you grow at, here's your environmental conditions, here's your CO2, here's your fertilizer, everything else. I always say that cannabis is a continual R&D because we are growing so many cultivars. So honestly, the most important thing is making sure that your client has a really good system for capturing data and comparing. So if you suggest, hey, like let's increase the light levels by 10%, I want to have as much as possible a true control, and then we compare the results at the end, because by cultivar, depending on the client's growth environment, because every single grow room is different, the HVAC, the lighting, et cetera, there's hundreds of factors that go into like why this grow room A would be different from grow room B. We really just essentially do these kinds of small scale trials. We start off with information that I have, that I've used successfully in other clients and other grows, in my own grows, and we use that as a baseline, but I'm always open for collaborating and tweaking. And sometimes my client might say, hey, I read this, and I'm like, let's try it. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. I'm always happy to trial new things. Maybe it's going to work, maybe not. We'll let the results speak for themselves, and then we'll take it from there. So I think being open to a lot of new information is really important. And that plant science background, I think, again, just gives you that slight edge on figuring out if a suggestion makes sense, if it's going to be negative for the plant or it's going to be positive, and sort of the really microscopic interactions and things that are happening essentially, and how that would on a macroscopic level look.